Hello guys, this is Sapphire Yagami with the review of Once Upon a Time 18th episode of the third season titled Bleeding Through. So, in this episode, the opening sequence is a tornado forms in the forest. In the character's past, we have in the years before the first curse, a young bar girl named Cora is swept off her feet by a gentleman named Jonathan, who tells her that he is a prince. He makes a world type vow that he will come back in 2 weeks with his ring of gold and proves it by giving Cora a ring he made out of straw. But when Jonathan tells Cora that he has to leave the next day, Cora decides that she's going to sleep with him that evening. 2 months later, we find a now pregnant Cora soaking wet in the rain and her straw ring coming apart. Upset that Jonathan never returned, when she reached the castle, Cora is shocked Jonathan is actually a gardener. She screams in shock, and as he takes off, a person comes to her aid and is revealed to be Prince Leopold, the future husband of Princess Ava, who he has yet to meet, and the future father of Snow White. Now, I felt bad for Cora in this situation because, because what the gardener was telling her was about, oh, you jump so quickly when you thought I was a prince. I'm like, of course she's gonna jump quickly when she's prince. She's a miller's daughter. She wants a better life for herself. And given the fact that even though this will be a TV show about fairy tales, you're still talking about the situation of her position as a. I mean, she's a woman. Her options are not that much compared to her options really aren't that much. She's a peasant by the social standard. She's a peasant. So if she wants to better her life, she has to marry somebody above her ranking. So she can't marry another peasant. So she's gonna have to marry like a nobleman or royalty. So of course she's gonna agree to marry a prince. That means a better life for her and a better life for any offspring that she may have. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then I really feel bad for him because he pretty much was being a player, trying to get into the girl's pants. They gonna sit there and call her a harlot she said, I gave you my heart and I gave you my virtue. Obviously, since it's a show that's family oriented, they can't be too far into what they saying. So pretty much she was a virgin. She lost her virginity to him. Because back then, virginity was a high price. You had to be a virgin on your wedding day. It was a big thing back then. Nowadays, guys really don't care so much, let alone girls. It's like, it's not really a big deal. Just don't, if you have multiple sex partners, just don't tell nobody. And make sure you get yourself checked. Pretty much that's how it is today. But, for Cora, that kind of sort of just ruined everything. She literally, in her eyes, she sort of ruined herself by sleeping with this dude who could pretty much offer her nothing at all. He can't offer her anything, right? So when she meets Prince Leopold, she's like, okay, And the thing is, obviously he's a little bit older than her, but he's upset because here we go. And Leopold and Cora start to bond together. This eventually leads to the two getting engaged. However, and for Leopold, given the fact that he's prince, royalty really don't have no choice in who they marry and who they can marry, as we see with that's Rain that's kind of taking the whole story thing. I know, but the point is with royals, they don't choose who they get married. It's not like the Disney version that we all grew up with. Little Mermaid. She falls in love with Prince Eric, and Tiana falls in love with Prince Naveen, and Cinderella. She goes to the ball, she loses a slipper, the prince find her, and they live happily ever. It's not like that Disney stuff, okay? If you was a royal, your parents tell you who to marry, and guess what? They gotta be a prince. He has to marry Princess Ava, and Princess Ava gotta marry him. He doesn't want to because he never met the girl before. Two, if you pick somebody for him, it doesn't necessarily mean y'all gonna be happy together. You know what I'm saying? Because technically you're doing this for whatever benefits it might have for your country. You're not really necessarily doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your country. Well, if I merge with this person, then I'll have this person's army and then we'll become greater in the resources. It's more of a political move. Marriage is more of like a political thing than a one of the heart. So, however, this union will start to unravel when Jonathan visits Cora in the gazebo and threatens to blackmail her because she hid the truth about the unborn baby and he has become greedy by using her. Oh, I think you better call Tyrone. And I was like, for real. He's like that. It's like that movie. You got to call Tyrone. Like, no, you ain't going to come up here. Back then you didn't want me and I'm hot. You all love me. Yeah, we're not going to do that up here, okay? So Cora decides to buy his silence by giving him gold in return, not knowing that Eva, 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 how you pronounce someone's name? Who just arrived to the palace, has been eavesdropping on the conversation and uses that to her advantage later on at the banquet hall, where after Leopold, who has been hearing rumors of Cora's deception, learns from Ava about her after Cora lies to him about being pregnant. Ava then tells Leopold to check Cora's pockets, which he discovers laced with jewelry. Cora is then escorted out of the palace, and Eva consoles Leopold, promises that she'll be able to give him an heir that is pure as snow after they are married. Obviously, now we know why the child was named Snow White. Pure as snow, Snow White. Months later, Cora gives birth to Zelena and afterwards leave her near a tree, telling her daughter that because she's a miller's daughter, she can't give her the life she always wanted. After she leaves, a green tornado arrives and it carries the baby. So this is why she gives a baby, because she's a miller's daughter. So that means her financial situation is not that good, and we all know babies can be, expensive. I mean, especially now in today's age. You saw if you go to a baby section, you see how much the crib costs and the car seats. I'm like, oh Lord, ooh, you gotta make sure you have a good job before you try to have a baby. Ooh. I mean, back then it probably wasn't that much. It was simpler times. But for Cora and them, for her being a miller's daughter, I mean, she still has to. I mean, the reason she took a job at the bar was so she could have a little extra, just to probably put food on the table, to keep a roof over the head. Because her dad's a miller, but that means you gotta get people to buy this from you. You know what I'm saying? So for her trying to have a child, she ain't gonna be able to help support herself, her father, and her child. This just too much. So she had to give Zelina up. And plus, I mean, if you're a parent, you don't want your child to live the life you live. You want you want something better for your child. So if she has a daughter, what can she offer her daughter? She can't offer anything. You know what I'm saying? She can't offer her anything. So for Cora's heart, she giving her away was a good thing, a good thing in her eyes. And so here we go in Storybrooke. In the present day at the mayor's home, Zelena has come up with a way to distract Regina, first by offering her green apples as a sign of gesture, then initiating an argument between them. It appears that Zena's plan has worked because Zelena has used the distraction to track down Regina's heart, and has Gold serve as her tracker, leading him to Robin Hood. When Robin Hood tries to stop him, Gold uses his power to point Robin Hood's arrow towards Roland, because Robin Hood said his arrow never misses. So Mr. Gold's like, what if I change the object? Change your target and made it his son. I mean, Robin Hood. He already lost Maiden Marian, and so he can't lose Roland. I'm like, no. And Rumpel doesn't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Rumpel doesn't want to hurt the kid, but he's being forced by Zelena to probably do whatever he needs to do in order to get the heart. Oh, see, this makes you hate Zelena even more. Just like, ooh, Zelena. So, Robin is left but with no choice to hand over Regina's heart to Gold in order to spare his son's life. As Regina arrives to see Robin, she tells him she was not worried because nothing's worth the life of a child. But now that her heart is with Zelena, Regina suspects that Zelena's real motives for taking her heart might be part of a bigger plot, since Zelena has not killed her yet. So she pays a visit to Gold's pawn shop and starts searching for the answers. But not before getting an earful from Belle, who rallies off a laundry list of things that Regina did to her, like locking her away in the tower. Then when they got here, she was trapped up in the insane asylum. Yeah, some things like that. I mean, I would probably hate Regina too if I was trapped in a crazy house for 28 years. That probably would get you pissed off. So Regina pretty much apologizes, right? So then the two discover that Regina's heart is related to her late mother's life when Regina finds the two-sided cursed candle that was responsible for killing Cora a year before. So now Zelena is celebrating her latest conquest by storing the heart in a box with her winged monkey watching. So now she has literally everything she needs. The heart, a resilient heart from Regina, courage from Prince Charming, and Rumpelstiltskin's brain. Well, she doesn't physically have Rumpelstiltskin's brain, but she has him. She turns her attention to Gold by asking him to wear a suit to dinner she has planned. It also turns out that she is planning to bring Neil back so he can be reunited with Gold. Cause what she wants to do is, if she could go back in time, that means Gold can go back to the point before he would have lost the Bay to a land without magic. Oh, now this scene right here, I was like, goddamn. I was like, whoa, Rumpelstiltskin, right? So Gold starts pretending that to think that he wronged her, and he starts seducing her as a way of apologizing. Like he starts kissing her neck and rubbing on her body, and he's like, "Oh yes." I'm like, "Oh, Rumpelstiltskin, oh my goodness!" Like I don't want to see you in this way, Rumpel. I can't. Don't ruin my image of you. No, I was like, obviously Rumpelstiltskin is good with his hands because Zelina was into it. She was like, "Oh yeah," like she just had the best ice cream ever. Like she was into it. She was like, oh yes, like her eyes was like they were rolling the back of him. I'm like, all he doing is kissing your neck. I would hate to see what happens when he go all the way. Jesus, I was like, woo, okay, can we keep the PG-13? Can't keep this. Let's keep it PG. No, let's keep it G. Let's keep it G. Let's keep it rated G. Okay, I was like, okay. So while he's seducing her, so he's seducing her as a way of apologizing, knowing that she still has feelings for him. But when she discovers that Gold is after the dagger because she has it on her leg, so when he goes, slides his hand toward her leg, I was like, oh my goodness. So, she, uses her, magic to freeze him in steps. So after the dagger, Xena quickly realizes his scheme by keeping the dagger away from him and sends him back to his cage. And she refers to him as a doll because she's kind of controlling him like a doll. Hours later, at the mayor's home, Emma, Mary Margaret, David, and Hook arrive to join Regina in a seance to try and contact Cora from the dead. But after seeing a gust of wind blowing in, Regina comes to the conclusion that Cora is trying to keep the secrets buried with her. But just as Mary Margaret tries to finally cheer up Regina and finally bond, the two are unaware that the spirit of Cora is in the house. All of a sudden, there's a knock at the door, a knock from one of the rooms. When Regina opens it, the spirit of Cora pushes Regina aside as she goes at the person who killed her, which is Mary Margaret, aka Snow White. Regina sends the two into another room where she uses purple dust to hold Cora off, but by then Cora has already possessed Mary Margaret, who now sees what happened in Cora's past as she mumbles out the reasons behind giving up Zelena. As she comes to, Belle, along with Emma, Hook, and David, enters, and Belle reveals why Zelena needs Regina's heart, David's courage, and Gold's brain. Zelena is planning to create a time travel spell because apparently every single time travel spell you need these three objects, in which Zelena is planning to go back to the past and prevent Ava from being born. So that means if Ava's not born, Snow White would never be born. If Snow White is not born, she's not going to meet Prince Charming. If those two don't meet, then there's no Emma. If there's no Emma, there's no Henry. And if there's no Snow White, there's no good guy for Regina to fight. And if if Zelena has a way, there will also probably be no Regina either, because Regina's dad is Henry. Regina married Snow White's dad, and then I'm trying to figure out how else would this. I'm trying to figure out how else everybody else connects. I got this. I probably gonna do a whole video on how everybody connects and how this will affect everybody. I got to think about that one. So anyway, and in the process will mean that not only will Emma and Harry never exist, Regina will no longer exist as well. Regina then realizes that Zelena still needs a baby to enact the curse, and she believes that's why Zelena is trying to accelerate the pregnancy of Mary Margaret in order to cast the spell. The revelations result in Regina and Mary Margaret to put aside any differences they had in the past. As Mary Margaret tells a tearful Regina, I know you and you feel things deeply. Regardless of having a heart or not, moments later, Regina returns to Robin and they embrace a kiss. I'm like, yes, Outlaw Queen! Yeah, because he's like she walks up to him, he's like, I'm so sorry. And she just like grabs him, like grabs his shirt and kisses him. Then they break away for a minute and he's like, oh my god. And he like kisses her again. I'm like, I love it. Then there's also a moment within this episode we have Emma. What took us so freaking long. It's just like, it's so sad how long it took her. Like, it's like you kind of want to punch Emma in the face. Like, really, Emma? Really? She's finally, like, being flirtatious with Hook, but Hook is not being flirtatious back because he knows if he kisses Emma, he's going to take away her magic. So he's, like, being all down in the dumps. Like, she's showing her, she's so excited. She's, like, flirting and stuff. Showing him, like, what she has learned so far in terms of magic. and stuff like that, and he's just like, you don't play with a man's hook, love. And she's like, come on, cheer up, he's trying to get the cheer up, but he's like, so he doesn't know, he don't want to be too close to her because he's afraid he's gonna kiss her, take away her magic, and then all hope is lost. I just feel so bad for Captain Swan. Oh, it sucks. But overall, with this episode, I'm glad we got to look more into the history between Ava and Cora. So when we first saw when Cora and Ava, when we saw them first meet, I think she was given, when we first saw them, they was Cora was getting her stuff ready, sitting up, and I think she tripped or something. No, I think she bumped into Ava, and she dropped her stuff, and she was, and like somebody was talking about and talking about, I think one of those royals or another, they talking about Cora need to say sorry to the princess. And Cora's like, why I gotta say sorry? She the one who bumped into me and made me spill stuff that I need to survive, okay? She needs stuff so I can, keep a roof over her head and keep a house over her head. So you already see Ava, because what we've seen Ava before was first the Snow White, she's this nice, charming queen, so peaceful and stuff. But apparently before she got to that point in life, she was a brat. Like, oh my goodness. What? Ava was a little, I'm sorry to say, but she was a bitch. Snow White's mama was a bitch. You know what I'm saying? She was a bitch. Okay? A bitch. So I could see why Cora has this strong disdain for Ava. Ava was a total bitch and was being manipulative to make sure she got what she wanted. And then and obviously later, like, she probably realized all my stuff I did in my past was not the way to go. So, she tried to change, tried to teach her daughter not to pretty much be the way she was, because Snow White was a little brat when she was small. And of course, there's a whole situation between Cora and Regina. Cora's trying to give Regina everything she did not have, but the thing is, Regina does not want all that. Regina just wants to be with David. That's all she wants. She wants to go off and be with David. That's all she wants in life. But of course, Cora was like, no, you can't marry him because he's not a king. And Regina's like, no, no, no. So, got all that drama. And so now, given all the times Regina has tried to kill Snow White, they have finally reconciled their past differences and decide not to live in the past and, look for a brighter future if they have a future. And the Evil Queen and Snow White are officially buddies, I guess you could say. Which is interesting. So overall, that is it for episode Bleeding Through, 18th episode of the 3rd season of Once Upon a Time. And Once Upon a Time. And as for, I believe we have 4 more episodes to go. Because it's April, it's going to soon be May. So, obviously, we're going to have no reruns. So, we count down to the end of season 3, which I'm kind of going to end. Kind of like so curious. Like, is she going to do the curse? If she does do the curse, what is the consequences of trying to, pretty much change your past. So next episode is going to be the 27th, titled A Curious Thing, followed by Kansas on May 4th, Snow Drifts on May 11th, and it's going to be a 2 episode on May 11th. First part is going to be Snow Drifts, and second part is There's No Place Like Home. So again, I'm Sapphire Yagame with Once Upon a Time recap / review. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.